Maize can give you up to 40 bags. I've seen it myself. 40 bags compared to 4 bags. That's a huge jump. Huge jump. And that is what is happening. That we are distributing hybrid seed, which costs me in the ministry 25, 27 cedis per kilogram, and I'm giving it away for 3 cedis, and the farmers are really mopping it up. So that it's changing their lives. And you see that maize production before we came in was less than 2 million metric tons. Last year we did 2.7 million metric tons. And I tell you, we can do 6, 7, 8 million metric tons of maize in this country. Because if Malawi, a tiny country, the size of, not even the size of Ashanti region, can do 3 million metric tons, Ghana can do far more multiples. And we are determined to reap this potential for the benefit of not only the consumers in Ghana, but to export, to earn more foreign exchange for the country. So these are the 5 modules. Now, in terms of the food crop component, there are 2 aspects on the macroeconomy. Import substitution. We're importing maize, we're importing rice, substantial, almost $1 billion or thereabout. We're importing chicken, over nearly $200 million a year. And there's no need for us to import these. In fact, we should be exporting. In fact, in chicken, 20 years ago, we used to be a major exporter of chicken to the region. The industry collapsed, and we are where we are now, being dependent upon imports. And that we are stopping through this process of the food crop component in terms of producing enough soya bean, because that is the key. Soya bean has been imported into this country as a component for poultry. And of course, once you do that, you don't stand any chance at all, because your cost just escalates. We have embarked, as part of the food crop component, on a huge increase in soya production, to the extent that this year, 2019, we expect, the figures are still coming in, we expect to produce over 200,000 metric tons of soya. When we came in, we were not even doing 100. And in 3 years, we've been able to double production, and it's going to continue as we go along. So with the component of soya, it means that feed for poultry, which makes up 70 to 80% of the cost of producing 1 kilogram of broiler, as chicken, the cost will fall. And of course, we have good quality, fresh chicken, compared to those dead chicken which have been in the freezers for 8, 10 years, pumped with antibiotics and water and so on, which we have been dependent as a country up till today. That will stop. That will stop, improve the health of our people. We say the foreign exchange, instead of giving it out to poultry farmers in America and Brazil and other places, the money will then be used for our roads, our hospitals, our schools, and so on. So it's going to be a big changer, game changer, and I'll tell you more about that later on. When it comes to maize, of course, now maize, we are now exporting maize. I can tell you. As a net importer, now we are exporting maize. The figures are being compiled for 2019, and you'll hear about that in the newspapers as to what we exported to our neighbors. Last year, we exported 130,000 metric tons of 19 food items to our neighbors as far as Mali, Guinea, and northern Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, and the others. And this year, I expect that to double, because the surpluses, the harvest this year has been much, much greater than even last year, because we've given out more support to farmers. We have 1.1 million farmer beneficiaries in 2019, compared to when we started 2017, when we started with 200,000 farmers. We've grown it to 1.1. We still have, and it's still not even 1/3 of smallholders in Ghana, and we intend to reach all farmers in due course. In the next 2-3 years, all farmers in Ghana will be benefiting from these and so on. So you'll see the impact on prices. Nobody in this room will tell me that prices of foodstuff in Accra, Kumasi, Takoradi, Cape Coast, Tamale haven't fallen so substantially. I know of a situation where a policeman who came to greet me at a traffic light was telling me, "Thank you, Minister. 4 years ago, we used to buy a bunch of plantain for 40 cedis. Now we are buying it for 4 cedis." And I'm sure you attest to that. So the impact on inflation is obvious. The impact of our work at the ministry on inflation, which Mr. Charles Edubuahen has so well recounted, is obvious. Inflation is falling because food prices in the urban areas are falling, and critics will say, "Oh, but the prices of the farmers are falling." Of course, supply, if you have more supply, prices will fall. But as I'm saying, the scale at which they are increasing their productivity is so high that the marginal reduction in price still makes their gross income much, much bigger than before planting for food and jobs. So that is where we are on the food crops. On the planting for export, of course, it's purely to earn us more foreign exchange. As I said, these 6 crops, that is, we are talking about palm oil or oil palm, we are talking about coconut, we are talking about mangoes, we are talking about cashew, we are talking about, which one haven't I mentioned? I think the 6 are here, and shea. Shea, for instance, for the first time, we are going to go into shea production, cultivation. All the shea from this country is in the wild, so the women go and collect. We've done wonderful, the researchers at Bole have done such wonderful work. I went and spent a whole night and a whole day with them, and I discovered that we could, with the right resources, be able to produce seedlings for our farmers. So we are empowering them. They've given us a budget. We are going to make sure that this money is available, and in the next 2 years, they should, and my target to them is to produce 1 million seedlings of shea every year for the next 5-7 years. And with that, we will do the 2 billion exports that I promised that we will do. We have assembled all the major research centers in this country, from food research, crop research, CSIR universities, and so on, into a committee in my office, advising me how to expand their capacity to produce planting material for DCs. We are doing, and this is very unique. For the first time, Ministry of Food and Agriculture is working very closely with the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. And with that, the district chief executives have the responsibility to ensure that we have enough planting material for them to do a seed garden for these crops depending upon the ecological zone, and to produce seedlings, distribute these seedlings free of charge to farmers. And as I speak to you, we have distributed about 30 million seedlings of these 7 crops to farmers, and we are going to expand that. And that expansion depends upon the capacity of the research institutes to give us the planting material. So they've given us a budget. It's about just below $40 million that I have to look for to support these research institutes, expand their activities to produce enough planting material for the DCAs to increase their output of seeds to the farmers. And through that, we are transforming the structure of agriculture in Ghana. For the first time, the Savannah region is going to have its own, what I call cocoa. Cashew is catching up so well from Boko to Boga to all the areas in the region. And the DCs themselves are surprised in the way farmers are coming to them to collect seedlings. And we are supporting them to grow this demand so that we'll be able to establish the capacity to be able to do the 2 billion for each of these. And in support, of course, the Parliament we just ended have passed the bill for the Tree Crop Development Authority. So instead of having cocoa board, cashew board, and so on, we've grouped all of them under this development authority, and that is going to be one of the biggest institutions in this country to support the growth of what we call the non-traditional exports. So we are doing all this for import substitution to save our foreign exchange, and also actively to expand our capacity to earn foreign exchange. As we speak, Ghana's import bill is about $12 billion. If this program for PED, Planting for Export and Rural Development alone succeeds, and I have no doubt that it's going to succeed, it will mean that from these three crops alone, we'll be able to fund all our import requirements and have a surplus to build our infrastructure, our schools and clinics and so on. Thank you very much.
Let's give all our presenters another round of applause. We now enter the Q&A session. Omaro, can you take it over from here?
Thank you so much, Doc. Please let's give a round of applause to Doc and his panelists. That's wonderful. So we've had improving macroeconomic stability for sustainable growth. That was actually a discussion on the economic sector. Indeed, it's a 3-day event. There are other areas that will be discussed. Tomorrow, that's Wednesday, we're going to have a discussion on the social sector. They will target issues having to do with the Education Ministry. Free SHS is a big deal. The Minister for Education is here. Let's give him a wave. Dr. Matthew Poku-Prempeh. Thank you so much. And then we also have the Ministry for Gender, Children and Social Protection that's scheduled for tomorrow. We have the Nation Builders Corps, NAPCO, is going to feature tomorrow in the Ministry for Health. The Minister for Health is here. Please, let's give him a round of applause. And then we also have the governance sector that will be tackled tomorrow. So if you have issues on all these sectors, of course, you have to be here. The ministers are going to be here with us till Thursday. On Thursday, we're going to have a discussion on the infrastructure sector. And I've seen the Minister for Roads. It is his year. Please, let's give him a round of applause. And then there will be transacting business with the Ghana card. That will be our concluding discussion on Thursday. But if you've been listening all morning and taking notes, you're interested in anything that has been said, please, this is the time to hear from you. Just show me your hand and I'll send a microphone to your side and you ask your question. There are 3 powerful people on the stage who are going to take your questions. Do I have my microphones in the aisles? Yes. So I'm taking the first question from here. Just introduce yourself nicely and then ask your question.
Absconding or leaving your country because of the regulatory environment in your country. So without the specific details, it will be difficult to respond beyond what I've just said. Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Broby, the lecturer, was asking a fairly academic question about monitoring the impact on the population of what we do. Yes, we do. In fact, the ministry spends a lot of money. A lot of hundreds and hundreds of workers are out in the markets, the food markets around the country, collecting data on volumes and prices on a daily basis, which we compare. But I hold in my hand some graphs of wholesale prices, retail prices of food crops in hundreds of markets around the country that one directorate of mine is always busy analyzing. So if you came to the ministry, we can direct you to a gold mine of agricultural data that you yourself can verify. We use that to monitor the impact on the population, because if the retail prices over the years, we'll be able to tell you maize was so much last year on average in these selected markets, and now these prices have dropped to this. Crop by crop, region by region, district by district, we have huge database that we collect actively, and we are collecting as we speak to you. So yes, we monitor closely. we collect data, we analyze the data on a very basic level, but as an academic, if you want to do any studies, you're welcome to our database, and we'll work with you for whatever you want to do. Thank you.
Moderator General, next set of questions, please.
So I just wanted to add that in the area of industrial development, it is worth noting that industrial activities generally have a long gestation period. So, number one, you can't buy a factory from a shop off the shelf. You know, even if you have the money, you have to order the equipment. If it's an agro-processing company, you have to do the plantation and then bring in the equipment. And so it could have a gestation period of even 1 year or 1.5 years. So when we talk about results and we indicate that you have initiated a process or a factory is under construction, respectfully, you should not expect that as soon as you start constructing a factory, that within the shortest period of time that you would complete it and then start generating the kind of impact that. So there are direct and indirect outcomes of productive activity. So it depends on how you are measuring the impact.
Thank you so much. Let's take the next batch. I'll be grateful if I can get questions from the right side. Yes. First, the lady.
Thank you very much. My name is Judy Nakwo. Mr. Minister of Agriculture, there's an ongoing debate about GMOs. People want to know the difference between improved seeds and GMOs, because the feeling is that it could be people, the Ministry of Agriculture could sneak it in, and we may be, dealing with GMOs instead of improved seeds. So can you please let us know exactly what track you're taking? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Just next to her, yes.
Thank you very much. My name is Ebenezer Owusu-Ado. I'm a research fellow at KNUSC, the Department of Bureau of Integrated Rural Development. And I just want to thank the organizers for putting together such a wonderful program that gives us the opportunity to interact with our ministers and then also those implementing government business. My question is a cross-cutting one, and it goes to the Minister of Trade and Industry and then the Minister for Food and Agriculture. The Honorable Minister of Trade and Industry mentioned that there is going to be an assessment of government policy, impact assessment. I wanted further details on that, what that kind of impact assessment is. And I'm asking that in connection with the fact that more often than not, we implement policies and programs, but we don't look at its impact on health. And so I'm much concerned about the health impact of government policies and programs. And that leads me to my next question, which is to the Honorable Minister for Food and Agriculture. The planting for food and jobs and all the agricultural policies and programs are yielding a lot of impact. But the question is, what has been the impact on the health of farmers? And so it appears we are increasing agricultural production, we are reducing poverty, and then improving economic stability at the expense of the health of farmers. And so if, for example, such programs came with a health impact assessment, then there will be a complementary program to ensure that we are not producing at the expense of farmers.
Very well.
And so I just want to be sure whether they have such programs in place.
Thank
and
you.
Whether they consider that.
Thank you so much. Please bring the question, the microphone up front. Yes, there's. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Kwame Ajefimpo. I'm a professor in soil science, and I'm a soil scientist by choice. I wish that the Minister of Agriculture would highlight any comprehensive strategy that has been put in place to address soils and soil-related issues beyond provision of subsidized fertilizers. And the next one is whether the ministry has plans to put in place a dedicated unit for soil and soil-related issues, such as we have for crops, the crop services division. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like the microphone to go to the students. We're going to get our first student, a free SHS beneficiary. Napo baby.
Good morning. My name is Iram Amadou Kajep of Makra Girls Senior High School. Please, this question goes to the Minister of Trade and Industry. Please, he made a statement that industrialization is the key to the economic transformation of Ghana. Please, I'd like him to throw more light on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any other questions at the back? Do I have any questions at the back? Do I have a hand at the back? Okay, then come up front. There's a hand here. Please give the microphone to you. Thank you. In fact, the whole economic management team is here. The head is here. The vice president will help you with the question.
So, thank you very much. My name is Mike Latadazi, and I'm the executive director of the Fisheries Commission. Now, I have to express permission of my deputy minister to talk on the aquaculture for food and jobs as mentioned by Honorable Minister. But we have finished the pilot stage, and this year we are rolling out a program in food. There are 4 components. One targets institutions like the prisons, service, second cycle institutions, where we would want them to be sustainable in their fish nutrition intake. For example, the prisons, our desire is that secondary prisons and James Camp prison be able to produce fish to feed all the prison institutions across the length and breadth of the country. And also with the aquaculture, we are in close collaboration with them to ensure that we support existing farms that are in distress situation with technology and with fingerlings, healthy fingerlings, for them to take off. And new entrants, we're encouraging them. We have youth groups that we are mobilizing to give them skills and to give them support to start fish production, just to complement the dwindling stocks in the marine sector. So we are on track and doing what is best for Ghana's growth and development.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let me just say that he and other officials from all the ministries are here to answer your questions over the next 3 days. You can grab any minister. This is a conference that you can have every minister answer every question that you have so far as it borders their sector. And still ahead, the President of the Republic, Nana Akufo-Addo, will be joining us to launch the results fair properly, which will be happening shortly. Let me also announce for those who are at the back that we are grateful to have the Vice President join us for this particular session, and he's observing closely, and of course everything that comes out of here would be discussed on Thursday, I believe, and then it will matter in your lives. Let me take some of the answers.
You're still watching JoyNews Interactive here on the JoyNews channel. Those were some visuals from the Accra International Conference Center where the National Results Fair is taking place, and we'll go back there as and when we can. And that's how we wrap up JoyNews Interactive with myself and Peter CBD. You know how to join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram with JoyNews on TV. Thank you so much for your company. Enjoy the rest of your day.